Hey everybody, John here from Hacking Music. I am so honored that you've carved out part of your day to be together and work on hacking music. So in this episode, we're going to talk about interesting versus important, or I versus I. This is episode 4 in a series called How to Build a Platform Under Your Music, the 10 habits that are way more powerful than just talent alone. You could think of them as strategic frameworks or force multipliers or habits. Whatever you want to call them is cool, but know that these are the chain of beliefs that all headliner level artists work from on a day-to-day level. So by the end of this video, I want to make sure you are clear on 3 really specific things. First is what I versus I is and how it works for you. Secondly, I want to make sure you get clarity on the 2 paths, one that tricks you and one that actually strengthens you. And lastly, I want to give you a powerful tool that you can start using immediately, like today, to really help train your instincts to do more of the right things more of the time. But before we go to the training, let's recap some of the components we've been through already. Originally, we talked about how to stage experiences and not just concerts. Then we talked about the 4 song archetypes that all songs fall into. Then we talked about how to build a moat around your career. I versus I is this video. Then we're going to talk about getting leverage right and e-commerce for profitable artists. Then how to build teams that win, followed by creative differentiation and leaders and feeders. These are some of the elements that make up the How to Build a Platform Under Your Music series. This is the vitamin D of headliner thoroughbred level artists. All right, so let's go to the training. Let's back up and give some context and ask the question, what is the world we are living in? We know that it's noisier than ever. 70,000 songs are released each day, and artists get tricked and beat up at pretty much every step along the way. We use the term patty cake entrepreneurs, where they play patty cake, right? They may look busy, they may act busy, they're reading all the blogs, listening to the podcasts, going to events. Maybe they've won some faux awards, like a top 10 song out of Montana. And really, entire industries are built up around this, making sure that artists are chasing others' kites rather than flying their own kites. And that's exactly where the industry wants to keep you, chasing kites. Hacking Music wants to keep you flying kites. Big difference. So you can think of the song Candy by Gavin DeGraw. Can't survive on candy. We all know that it's impossible to try to get healthy by eating a diet of Skittles. But unfortunately, that's exactly where many artists find themselves, trying to survive on candy. What we're talking about today is something almost all artists get wrong. Developing artists at the bottom always get this wrong. Deploying artists in the middle start to figure it out and start to put some things in place. Dominating artists at the top always operate and work from this consistently. So the tool I want to give you is this. It's a simple question that you will ask yourself and use dozens of times every day. And that's this. Is this something interesting or is it something important? Is what I'm considering doing interesting? Maybe a distraction? Maybe takes me off my task? Or is it something important that fortifies and helps me hit those targets, those goals, weekly goals, quarterly goals, yearly goals? And this is something that came out of the sports world. Some of the best coaches in the world use this every day. The press, the media, academia, the chattering class always are about interesting, what's clever, what's, kind of clickbait. But what CEO entrepreneurs and headliner artists ask and know that they only want to be about doing the important stuff, not the interesting stuff. All right, so how do you know? How do you know if something's merely interesting or if it rises to the occasion of being important? Let's look at 2 different paths. First path is choosing interesting. The second path is choosing important. Choosing interesting looks like a continuation of hope as a strategy. Maybe you've seen somebody always entering contests, trying to win a contest. We call this the label, lottery, and luck mindset, to where you're trying to do all the right things to get somebody else to put you in the game rather than putting yourself in the game. Maybe you know somebody like that. Often this looks like blaming another company. or asking permission from an industry that's really not interested in your health and profitability. So how this path tricks you, the interesting path tricks you, is that it keeps you excited. It keeps you chasing kites, keeps you distracted, and your lizard brain loves this. It loves to chase a shiny new object rather than keep a course and stay focused. The net here is that it keeps lazy artists distracted, frustrated, and broke. It's not where we want to be. All right, so how do you know? How do you know if something's just merely interesting and you need to avoid it, or if something is important and you need to focus on it? So let's look at two different paths to answer that question. The first is choosing interesting. The second is choosing important. So choosing interesting, what does that look like on a day-to-day level? Maybe you've seen some people who are stuck in hope as a strategy. Maybe they're always trying to win a singing contest on TV. We call this the label, lottery, and luck mindset, doing all the right things to get somebody else to pick you and ask you to the dance. Maybe you know somebody like this. Another way this shows up is in blaming. Maybe you're angry at the big companies or angry at Spotify for their success and your lack of traction. Maybe you know somebody like this. Another way this shows up is people asking for permission from the industry. When the industry really isn't interested in your health or your profitability. Those are a couple of ways that it shows up. Maybe you know some people who personify each of those. And how this tricks you is really interesting because it keeps you excited. It keeps you chasing shiny objects. We call them other people's kites rather than flying your own kites. And the reality is that your lizard brain actually loves this. It thrives on this. This is the drug part of your brain that gets distracted and loves to be distracted. All right, so that's what choosing interesting looks like. Let's flip it and look at choosing important. What does that look like? Maybe you've seen some of these people in your world. So it looks like somebody who's maybe increased their discipline or increased their focus. Maybe it looks like somebody who's increased their team and expanded their team members. Maybe you know somebody who's about that. Maybe somebody's increased their revenue and their processes and their systems. Maybe you know somebody who's kind of focused on that. Either way, it strengthens something very important. And we do this in the training to where we map out our weekly task, our quarterly task, and our yearly task. We call them Super Bowls. And the net takeaway here for important tasks is that everything is aligned towards winning your Super Bowl. You're not easily taken off path because you're asking a really simple question. Does this allow me to hit that Super Bowl, or does it distract me from it? All right, so using I versus I consistently every day pushes artists into new worlds. We talked about the three gears of developing, deploying, and dominating artists. These are the three gears that all artists move throughout their career. And this tool allows you to kind of jump those gears. If you're a developing artist, it pushes you into a deploying tier. If you're a deploying artist, it pushes you closer to a dominating tier. So, to summarize, you have high-value tasks each week, each quarter, each year that we go through much deeper on the hacking music training. And this tool of I versus I helps you hit that target. Each day as you're facing hundreds of decisions, you will ask yourself, does this decision move me towards my Super Bowl, that thing I set out for my quarter or my year? And if so, it's important. And if it doesn't, it is merely interesting. So these are the two paths that I want to make sure you know as you begin to use this I versus I tool. It really is an essential habit that is more powerful than talent alone. Sure, you want to be talented. Sure, you want to write great songs. Sure, you want to create great experiences for your fans. But this is the thing that strengthens, supports, and sells the music and the experiences you create. So to review, we talked about what I versus I is and how it works. We talked about the two paths, one that tricks you and one that strengthens you as you build your career. And we talked about a decision-making tool that you could start using immediately. So I want you to start using this today to really help you to do more of the right things more of the time. So hope this helps you. I hope this strengthens you. And I can't wait to see you put points on the board in a smarter, faster fashion. We'll see you next time.